Hello, Oscillator Sync here, and you find me in a moment of experimental bliss because this is the Triad from DecadeBridge. Ah. Yes, twinkle stars. Run away from the ghost. DecadeBridge, if you're not aware of them, are a small, I think only one person electronic instrument maker based here in the UK. I previously showed the TIN, the SN, on the channel, which is a little FM digital drone voice. Very, very cool, very, very lo-fi and fluffy sounding. Really, really love that. I've used it quite a lot on other stuff. And this is one of their new releases, the Triad. If you needed to put the Triad into a broad category of synths, you'd probably call it a drone synth. I don't think that's unfair, but it does mask some of the other things that it likes to do based off its kind of fairly unique architecture. It likes to do glitchy, noisy, and rhythmic things, either on its own or when paired with something that is driving it into those rhythms. Most of this video, we are going to just explore the sounds, first on its own, and then pairing it with some other instruments to see how you can use it within a larger setup. But before we get to that, I am going to briefly describe the architecture, because as I mentioned, it's a little bit unusual. If you want to skip the chat, then feel free to jump to the next chapter where we'll just start making noise with it. Yeah, let's talk about how it's actually structured, because as I say, it's kind of unusual. The Triad has three oscillators, oscillator A, B, and C. They're very, very wide-ranging, and they go well down into sub-audio rate, so into sort of LFO rate, which is a really important part of its design because it's how you access a lot of the rhythmic ideas and other stuff. Now, on a lot of drone synths, so something like the Crow's Ovum here, the oscillators are wired in parallel. That is to say that they're each sort of an individual independent voice, and they're mixed together at the output, and you hear all five of them. On the Triad, it's slightly different. Actually, they're wired in series, essentially. You're only hearing oscillator C, and then oscillator A and B are driving each other, and then eventually C. What that means, essentially, from what DecadeBridge explained to me, is that they're essentially powering one another. So A powers B and B powers C. So B can only be heard when A is also high, essentially, and C can only be heard when B is high. And obviously, the shape of what B is doing is going to be affected by the shape of what A is doing. It sounds a bit like ring modulator type stuff on paper, but the sort of more raw, primitive, I use that word in a good way, implementation, the sonics of it is quite different to ring modulator. These three buttons here affect the range of frequencies available on each of the oscillators. So the range can be sort of skewed towards being sub-audio or skewed to being audio for most of it, and that's going to have a big impact on the sound of the instrument. On top of that, we also have a switch here, a three-way toggle, which when it's in the center position has no effect, but in the up or down position allows oscillator A in the down position and B in the up position to reset oscillator C. That's essentially the same thing technically as sync, hard sync, I think, in this case, but don't quote me on that, but certainly what we think of as sync, and we'll hear some of those sync type sounds for certain. But DecadeBridge call this reset rather than sync, and I think that's wise because this operates in sub-audio rates so often that this is how, again, you get access to a lot of the rhythmic stuff. It's not the only way to do it, but this is certainly one way of doing it. On top of the reset switch, we also have an input here for reset, which allows you to plumb something else into the triad to reset in the down position the A oscillator, or in the up position the B oscillator. So as well as having these interact with each other and potentially short circuiting and interacting with C in the case of A, you can also affect the reset of these two. This again is how we can, in some cases, access some of the rhythmic stuff, and specifically how we can access the way that we can interact with other stuff. So if we want to sync it to something, for example, this is how we will do that. That technical information will probably help you get to some general areas of the synth in terms of if you want to make it synchronize with itself or with other things. But really, this is a synth that invites you to just turn knobs and flick switches and push buttons and listen to the wild sounds that come out the back of it. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of the video. First of all, on its own, and then paired with other equipment. So let's get to that. So let's turn up my mixer and see what we have. So if I had to characterize the triad, I would describe it as arcade clash. It wants to get to these sort of 8-bit arcade, glitchy, sometimes sort of almost arpeggiated sounds. So you can hear in this case that my A and B oscillators are conspiring to make things sub-audio rate. So you're kind of getting clicks and rhythmic things happening as we bring them up. Into audio rate, you get these sort of quite complex square wave derived drone tones, which can be pretty thick. This thing is amazing sample fodder. I was really regretting not recording the entire time I was sort of learning it, because it came up with these amazing sort of bass synth voices in some cases. Like that, right? So this sort of weird sync ring molly type sounds. And the pulse width gets all short. Spring reverb on that. So you can hear here that this A oscillator is having a big effect on the rhythm of the instrument, and B is kind of deciding on the pitch, and then C is a tonal thing. Reverb. Boost the bass on my mixer a little bit. Oh, hello. Yeah, so sometimes you kind of get these trills and stuff. Let's try adding in some of the resets. So I'll have a reset, and immediately that rhythm thing starts happening a lot more prominently. So there are those sort of real obvious sync sounds. But at sub-audio rate, you get these like hard cut-offs. And although this is resetting this, it's still affecting this one as well. Pac-Man core. Run away from the ghost. Sounds so good with the spring reverb. I'm sorry, I'll try not to have it on the whole time. Let's have B do the resetting. I think this is where you get the more obvious sort of sync sounds. Spring reverb. Disgusting. Lasers. Birds. Oh, hello. Just all these lovely, glitchy, very evocative sounds. Okay, these sort of complex rhythms happening. Yeah, so let's pair this with some other stuff, and we'll start with the SQ1 here. So I'm going to take the gate out of the SQ1 and bring it into the Triad. At the moment it's just sort of droning, but when we hit play on the sequencer, we can hear that there's something rhythmic happening with these gates. You can turn some of the gates off. And now we have a rhythmic effect that's taking over what's going on here. Which of the oscillators you're affecting is going to change how much and what. That rhythmic effect is. I've got the SQ1 set up so that these knobs affect the gate length, so in some cases it's just going to cut things out, but depending on how we've got things set up, sometimes there's like a pitch drop. Like that, right? And it's going to sort of pair with whatever's happening inside the synth in terms of resetting stuff as well. And while that's kind of fun to start getting that sort of tonal effect in there, it is still essentially droning, which might be what you want, but what I think I will want most of the time when I'm using it this way is to bring in something like this. This is a little 0 HP low pass gate, and this I think really opens up what you can do with this. So what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to unplug the output from there. That can go to the output of my low pass gate. I'm going to go in to the low pass gate from there as we were before, and then I'm going to mult with a little stack cable that gate pattern to also affect the low pass gate. Boop. There we go. And now if we bring this up, now the low pass gate is opening with the gate as well. We're still getting that kind of tonal effect happening with the gate as well. And this sounds super cool. Bit of a drop because it's passive. Just a little bit. And there's loads of really cool like, pseudo percussion things. Spring reverb. Really cool glitchy drum things and almost sounds like a trumpet actually that one. A low pass gate is a wonderful thing. This cool sort of almost metallic things. Yeah. Like pure sort of arcade clash glitchiness goodness. And just new sounds on tap everywhere. Nice. Cool sort of tritone thing there. Let's take this to its inevitable conclusion, and let's pair it with the Scrooge, which has a more comprehensive set of sequencing available to us. So I've basically duplicated what we had with the Korg, except now rather than the gate output on the Korg, it's coming out of the external track on the Scrooge, and this gives us a bit more flexibility with what we do with like the CV and stuff, which is fun. So I'll just get this playing. Aesthetically, probably suits the Triad quite nicely. Just pop a couple of steps down maybe. So we do basically the same thing we did before. Anyway, we've got kind of quite a nice sort of weird metallic thing at the moment. One thing I've found is that actually if we adjust the voltage going into the reset, there's kind of an area where you can almost affect the pitch. This will need to be in like audio rate already, but if I come in here, for example, and change the voltage of this one, Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, and on here we can do things like ratcheting the notes, which should be fun. So let's maybe put a longer note here. And then ratchet it. You can also sound like random voltage in using this. Yeah, that's fun. Ah. Yes, twinkle stars. I love little strange audio artifacts like the Triad. I've kind of been collecting them a little bit. It's my main source of gas, if you like. And I recognise fully that they are not for everybody. But for me, I find them a constant source of inspiration and fun. And music should be fun. And so, if you are of a similar mind, you should definitely check out the Triad and the other DecadeBridge stuff. There's just a bunch of fun, interesting instruments out there. I hope you enjoyed this little exploration of this interesting little gizmo. If you did, as always, a little like on the video is always appreciated, and making sure that you're subscribed is a big help too. But I guess we're probably done for today. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me. And until Until next time, take care.